It is 11:45 at night, and you are dragging your feet into the Central Hospital's parking lot after a grueling 14-hour liver transplant. Your brother's gambling debt has ballooned to $500,000, and the loan sharks have just sent you a photo of your daughter waiting for the bus outside her school. A black SUV cuts off your car the second you turn the key. Two men in black suits drag you into the back seat, press a cold gun against your ribs, and pull a burlap sack over your head. They do not take you to a bank or an empty lot. They take you to a closed veterinary clinic on the outskirts of the city. On a rusted stainless steel operating table lies a middle-aged man gasping for air, his chest shattered by bullets, and next to him is a thermal styrofoam cooler containing a heart stolen from a mysterious traffic accident. The order is clear. Transplant this heart, save their boss. If he dies on the table, you and your daughter die tonight. You make the first incision with violently shaking hands, but survival instinct and your godlike surgical skills soon hijack your brain. 7 agonizing hours pass in the stench of blood and cheap antiseptic. The heartbeat returns, beating steadily on the monitor. The next morning, you wake up in your own bed as if nothing happened, but the $500,000 debt is wiped clean from the system, and a briefcase containing $100,000 in cash sits on your living room table next to a short handwritten note. Excellent skills. Work starts next week. You have officially crossed the line with no way back. The life of an honest surgeon with a fixed salary of $300,000 a year is now a fading memory. You begin establishing your first underground network, operating a dark economy few dare to imagine. At this stage, you do not kill people, you tell yourself this to soothe the biting of your conscience. You act as the final endpoint of a supply chain lubricated by sheer desperation. Your clients are millionaires, corrupt politicians, or faceless tycoons on the dark web. People willing to throw money to extend their lives instead of waiting 5 agonizing years on a legal transplant list. Your supply comes from undocumented immigrants, desperate gamblers, or slum dwellers willing to sell a kidney or a liver lobe for $15,000. You secretly rent out the basement of a private medical facility on the verge of bankruptcy, bribing its director with 10% of the profits for exclusive use of the operating rooms from midnight to dawn. You carefully recruit a private crew, including an anesthesiologist stripped of his license due to fentanyl addiction, and 2 combat nurses who previously worked in brutal refugee camps. Everything starts running smoothly, like a blood money printing press. A kidney is bought for $15,000 in the slums, but hits the black market at a flat rate of $200,000. Subtracting the costs of smuggled medical equipment, bribes, cryogenic transport fees, and broker commissions, you pocket a clean, untaxed $100,000 in cash for every surgery that takes a mere 3 hours. But power and money come with brutally unforgiving logistical equations. You realize that slicing open a torso and removing organs is only half the game. Keeping those organs alive during transport to the client is the true life or death challenge. You are forced to shed the mindset of a doctor and start thinking like a criminal supply chain engineer. The maximum cold ischemia time for a kidney is 24 hours, a liver has only 12, and a heart or lungs can only endure a mere 4 to 6 hours before the cells begin to necrotize and turn into useless dead meat. You must establish a network of professional high-speed couriers, utilizing fake ambulances with blaring sirens, low-flying private helicopters dodging radar, and even repurposing old cross-border drug smuggling routes to move the thermal coolers filled with specialized organ preservation fluid. You throw money at traffic cops to look the other way as your vehicles tear through red lights in the dead of night, and pay massive bribes to airport customs officials so your medical crates labeled as biological materials never pass through X-ray scanners. Every decision you make is now a mathematical equation of life and death. A flight delayed by a snowstorm means a $300,000 liver rots. A powerful client flies into a rage, and a death sentence is highly likely issued for you. Gradually, you become colder, more calculating, and more ruthless. You no longer look at the people walking down the street as whole, soulful beings. Under your scrutinizing gaze, they are stripped down into walking price tags, mindless biological machines carrying expensive internal components waiting to be harvested. Dirty money floods into your offshore accounts at breakneck speed, and with it comes the fatal complacency of those standing at the top of the food chain. You are making $3 million a month, snapping up the city's most luxurious penthouses and laundering the cash clean through a chain of fake dental clinics registered in your name. But the monster of the black market is always starving and demands darker things. The snowball starts rolling out of control when a notorious Russian arms dealer hiding in Dubai places an impossible order. He needs a heart, a liver, and both corneas, all harvested from a single donor with the extremely rare O-negative blood type. He declares he is ready to transfer $10 million in cryptocurrency for this package on the condition that everything must arrive in Dubai within the next 48 hours. Finding a voluntary donor who meets all these stringent conditions in such a narrow time frame is a biological impossibility because taking a heart means directly taking a life. The encrypted satellite phone on your desk rings, and your broker's icy voice reports that his network has just located a homeless college student who is a 100% biological match, currently sleeping under an overpass barely 10 miles from your underground operating facility. You stand in silence before the mirror in the scrub room, turning on the freezing water over your trembling hands, asking yourself if you are truly ready to cross the final boundary, evolving from a cunning organ smuggler into a cold-blooded murderer. The decision is made in a split second as you look at a bank balance temporarily constrained by massive, pending money laundering operations. You convince yourself that the homeless student is living a wasted life anyway, and his sacrifice will feed the entire empire you have painstakingly built. You pick up the satellite phone, type a single word of confirmation, and toss it into the incinerator bin. Less than 20 minutes later, a refrigerated truck masquerading as a pork delivery vehicle pulls up under the overpass. Your cleanup crew, a team of cold-blooded Eastern European mercenaries, takes less than a minute to inject a massive dose of chemical restraints into the victim's neck and toss him into the back. When the young man is hauled onto your stainless steel operating table, he is still breathing faintly, his dull, lifeless eyes reflecting the blinding surgical light. This is not a life-saving procedure. It is a biological dismantling line. You make a long incision from his throat down to his navel, operating with the precise, emotionless efficiency of a machine. The liver is extracted first, immediately submerged in cold preservation fluid. Next are the corneas, carefully peeled away and placed in sterile glass vials. Finally, the heart. As you clamp the aorta and sever the vessels, the steady beeping on the monitor suddenly flatlines into an ear-piercing, continuous screech, signaling clinical death. For the first time in your medical career, you create a flatline not out of helplessness, but because it is the ultimate objective. The still twitching bloody heart is dropped into a specialized cryogenic cooler. The $10 million package is ready. You order your men to toss the hollowed-out corpse into the medical waste incinerator, erasing all traces of a human being's existence from the face of the earth. The transport to Dubai is a masterpiece of bribery and air traffic manipulation. The cargo is loaded onto a private jet under the diplomatic cover of a corrupted embassy attaché you bought for $500,000. The aircraft tears through the night sky, bypassing international flight information regions without triggering a single inspection. 40 hours later, $10 million in untraceable cryptocurrency flows into your cold wallet. This spectacularly successful transaction permanently alters the operating system of your business model. You realize that waiting for desperate individuals to voluntarily sell their organs is too slow, too passive, and entirely incapable of satisfying the bottomless greed of the global ultra-rich. You begin to industrialize the crime. Your empire upgrades to a new level, 1,000 times more sophisticated and brutal. You establish networking ties with transnational human trafficking rings and drug cartels. Instead of paying for scattered individual organs, you buy wholesale shipments of undocumented immigrants smuggled in the back of trailers. These human beings are herded into abandoned warehouses, retrofitted into secret medical detention facilities on the outskirts of the city, where they are well-fed, injected with vitamins, and given routine medical checkups, simply to ensure the components inside their bodies meet the highest premium standards. Whenever an order comes in from the elite, your computer algorithms scan the biometric database of thousands of individuals in the camps, select the most perfect match, and put that unlucky soul on the chopping block. You have truly become a god presiding over life and death in the underworld, operating a colossal human supply chain hidden behind legitimate logistics companies and charitable foundations. But in a system of extreme complexity, a mistake the size of a grain of sand is enough to bring the entire machine crashing down. Overconfidence begins to blind your censorship and risk assessment protocols. Last week, your kidnapping network at the border snatched a wandering young man to fulfill an urgent $500,000 kidney transplant order for a politician. Every procedure went smoothly according to the industrial protocol. The young man was anesthetized, surgically relieved of a kidney, and then disposed of at the bottom of the ocean with concrete blocks chained to his ankles. The real problem only begins this morning, when your in-house hacker frantically bursts into your office, his face as white as a sheet. He stutters out a report that while analyzing residual tissue to update the archive files, the medical scanning system detected a microscopic, military-grade tracking chip implanted deep beneath the skin at the back of the victim's neck. That wandering young man was no ordinary vagrant. He was a blood relative of one of the region's most ruthless cartel syndicates, hiding from family pressure under the guise of poverty. The final signal from the chip was transmitted from the exact coordinates of your underground operating theater before it was neutralized. Now, you are not facing the police or special task forces, who are still bound by the law and rules of engagement. You are being hunted by an army of heavily armed street assassins who need no search warrants and are ready to burn down everything in their sight. The piercing shriek of the security alarm suddenly blares across your underground facility. The exterior surveillance monitors simultaneously go black, and deafening explosions begin to pound against the reinforced steel doors on the ceiling. The second explosion shakes the concrete foundation of the operating room, bringing down chunks of drywall ceiling onto a floor slick with preservation fluid. You have barely 30 seconds before the reinforced steel security doors are blown completely off their hinges. Survival instinct triggers a chillingly cold composure in your mind. You are not a street thug. You are a biological engineer and a supply chain kingpin. You rush to the central control panel, cut off the standard ventilation system, and activate the emergency lockdown protocol, turning the entire underground facility into an airtight, oxygen-deprived box. Through the battery-operated backup camera system, you watch dozens of masked gunmen with assault rifles flood down the stairs, shooting at anything in their path. Instead of drawing a gun in a hopeless firefight, you snap the valves off 3 high-pressure anesthetic gas cylinders and vent them directly into the backup ventilation system, blowing back out into the main corridor. This gas is normally used to gently put patients to sleep on the operating table, but in heavy concentrations and a confined space, it becomes a deadly chemical weapon causing acute respiratory failure. From the armored control room, you coldly watch the monitors as the cartel's vanguard begins to stagger, vomit, and collapse to the floor after just 15 seconds of inhaling the invisible stream. The men behind them blindly fire their weapons in a panic before trampling over each other to find a way out, but the outer security doors have already been electronically deadbolted by you. You have survived the first wave, but you know the cartel will never stop. They will bring gas masks and C4 explosives for the next assault. You order your mercenaries to cut a bloody path out through the medical waste disposal tunnel, abandoning tens of millions of dollars worth of infrastructure currently going up in flames. Standing in the thick smoke of the suburban dump, looking back as your very first facility turns to ash, you realize a brutal lesson of the underworld. Money is not the ultimate power. Violence is what dictates the rules of the game. You can no longer remain just a doctor hiding in the shadows, buying flesh. To survive and protect the rest of the global supply chain network you have built, you must possess an army of your own. You activate a black account in Switzerland, wiring $5 million straight to a private security firm composed of stateless former Special Forces operators. You do not hire them to protect you. You hire them to wage a war of extermination. The cartel thinks they are hunting weak prey, but they do not know they have just awakened a monster capable of manipulating both financial systems and extreme violence. You launch a bloody purge calculated with the precision of a neurosurgery. You use your network of hackers to breach the city's entire traffic camera grid, tracking the rival cartel's money flow and drug transport lines. Instead of directly assassinating heavily guarded bosses, you target their financial blood vessels. Your mercenary hit squads raid drug transit hubs, torch cash stash houses, and take down the cartel's key accountants. You apply your surgical tactics to warfare. Cut off the supply, isolate the limbs, and let the target body necrotize itself. Panic begins to spread through the enemy ranks when they cannot pay their foot soldiers, and bought-off government officials start turning their backs out of fear of collateral damage. In just 2 short weeks, you flip the board from being the hunted to forcing the rival cartel boss to send a peace signal through a corrupt state senator acting as a middleman. The meeting is set at a luxury restaurant on the top floor of a skyscraper, a place where, just a few years ago, you could not even afford a dinner. Walking into the VIP room surrounded by heavily armed bodyguards, you look straight into the eyes of the notorious cartel boss and throw a file folder onto the table containing all the information about his bank accounts, his children's school addresses, and his wife's daily travel schedule. You are not here to sign a peace treaty. You are here to swallow his entire organization whole, converting his drug smuggling networks into the safest organ transport routes in the world. Officially ascending to the throne of the criminal underworld, 4 years pass since that blood-soaked takeover. And you are no longer a mere smuggler or an underground surgeon. You are an invisible phantom controlling a multi-billion-dollar dark economy spanning 3 continents. The cartel boss's former network now exclusively serves the transport of your biological cargo. Mini submarines that once carried cocaine are now packed with high-tech cryogenic coolers, silently slipping past Coast Guard blockades to deliver organs to tycoons on super yachts in the middle of the ocean. You own private islands where surgical theaters are built deep underground, equipped with technology far superior to any national hospital. You have reached the absolute zenith of the power fantasy, where a snap of your fingers dictates the lives of thousands and shakes the global black market. But the more massive a system becomes, the more data blind spots it generates. And in the age of digital surveillance, data is a fatal Achilles heel. Interpol task forces and federal intelligence agencies do not shoot you down with bullets. They use supercomputers, blockchain analysis, and financial behavior tracking algorithms. A low-level accountant in your network of money-laundering dental clinics makes an accidental $2,000 discrepancy on an electronic tax filing. That grain of sand mistake instantly triggers an automated federal alert system, pulling a massive, multi-agency audit down upon the entire chain of shell companies you hide behind. You receive a tip-off from a high-ranking mole inside the Justice Department exactly 12 hours before a 500-page indictment and an international arrest warrant are issued. This time, you cannot use poison gas, mercenaries, or blood-soaked negotiations to solve the problem, because your enemy is now the law enforcement apparatus of the entire global system. The international banking network begins freezing your anonymous trust accounts en masse in the blink of an eye. The politicians who once gladly accepted millions of dollars in bribes now collectively turn their backs, simultaneously dispatching hit squads to find you and erase all points of contact to save their own political seats. You stand in your glass penthouse on the 72nd floor, looking down at the glittering city lights below, realizing that the ultimate power you possess is actually just a prison without bars. You are forced to activate your final scorched earth protocol, launching a self-executing malware that wipes all biological databases clean, incinerates tens of thousands of client files on cloud servers, and remotely detonates the physical evidence storage rooms at your underground medical facilities. You burn down your own billion-dollar empire with just a few clicks of a mouse. You pick up a forged passport issued by a nation with no extradition treaties, grab a cold wallet containing your final $200 million in backup cryptocurrency, and step into the private elevator leading straight to the rooftop helipad. The rhythmic chopping of the helicopter blades slices through the night air, blending with the wailing sirens of dozens of armored police vehicles smashing through the security gates at the lobby level below. You have physically escaped the perimeter, preserving your life and a massive fortune, but your existence from this exact second onward becomes an endless, breathless run. You will never again sleep soundly through the night, because every knock on a door could be a tactical team breaching the frame, and every passing shadow on the street could be an assassin hired by powerful former clients desperate to silence you. You overturned every rule to conquer the underworld, but the ultimate price is turning yourself into a perpetual ghost, permanently imprisoned in your own paranoia and absolute terror. The stillness of the night sky offers no peace. It is merely the quiet pause before a brand new hunt, where you are forever the prey.